An unintended consequence is a more top-heavy civil service. While the number of junior executive officers fell by 15%, more senior mandarins escaped the squeeze.
A mandarin originally is a Chinese government official at the highest level of government. They probably have like 20 layers of government bureaucrats, but this would be like the top 5 or 6, almost at the level of being the emperor himself. So nowadays, Mandarin can refer to a high-level government official in China, a bureaucrat, or elected official, but more often it will be used just to describe a high-level bureaucrat in any sort of organization who has certain qualities, typically of being very secretive and also of being reactionary too. So for example, if somebody were to say something in public that was negative about one of the government agencies and it made a lot of news, quite typically you'll find that some government official will get up there and they'll dispute what the person said and be kind of sneaky about it. So a Mandarin doesn't necessarily have to be a government official. It could be a person that is at a fairly high position in a particular field where that person will be thought of as being an expert, and who also functions as a spokesperson for the field in general, and will typically adopt conservative or mainstream opinions within that group of people. Way back in the 1930s and 1940s, my uncle was a censor official. It was his job to review all of the movies in Chicago and to give them approval to be shown in Chicago. So typically what would happen is that if somebody had a movie that was maybe just a little racy, they, sort of schmooze him a little bit, and they referred to him as the Mandarin because his decision was considered to be final. If he didn't like your movie, you weren't going to be able to show it. A few years ago, went and visited China, and we were taking pictures, and we didn't realize it, but we were taking pictures of a military installation, which wasn't too smart. So they arrested us, and before you know it, we were sitting in front of some Mandarin who was just yelling at us in Chinese, and we had no idea what he was saying. But he just took the film out of the camera and gave us our camera back and let us go. So, learn my lesson. Don't mess with Mandarins.
The move was calculated to maximise the contrast between the Chancellor's avowed prudence and the supposed profligacies of the past.
Profligacy refers to behavior that is very careless and wasteful, generally with money, wildly extravagant, completely given up to dissipation and licentiousness. So along with spending money, it's oftentimes associated with somebody drinking a lot, doing drugs, buying expensive cars, crashing expensive cars, spending money on entertainment, prostitutes, and ultimately leading to ruin, usually poverty, and oftentimes to poor health too, along with that, and sometimes even to a completely destroyed person. So that's what happens to profligate people, and those are the wages of profligacy, is ruin. Profligacy is well known throughout history. most famously with some of the Roman emperors, for example, Nero and Caligula, who had very well-established reputations for just drinking, killing people, all sorts of licentiousness. Whatever came into their beady little minds, they acted it out. And also profligacy is associated with the reputation that somebody is given by somebody that comes after them. So in some cases, the reputation for profligacy was not necessarily correct. That the person who came after them, they wanted to diminish their reputation, so they went and said that the person was profligate, even though they weren't. Or maybe just a little bit, but not as much as they said. A lot of Hollywood stars get a reputation for being profligate, wasting their lives away in between making millions of dollars on movies. And additionally, the idea of a profligate son is really pretty common, especially for rich people. So oftentimes they'll try to somehow fix up the son, and most of the time it actually works. They get over it, and then they normalize while they're still young, and they end up successful thanks to dad's help. Oftentimes people who come into money quickly, or oftentimes the sons of wealthy families, they go through a stage of profligacy and debauchery, where not only are they spending a lot of money, but they're also ruining their reputations by hanging out with people that are very negative for their public image. And then sometimes they recover, but sometimes they don't. ESL-fullsteamahead.com